practice file, but this is the one with the answers. So when you need to practice, you need to practice with the one without the answers. But yeah, this is the one with the answers. I'm just gonna go through like the formulas, and because I mean many of them they go together. So I'm just gonna talk about the formulas on each of these and how you can practice. Cool. So yeah, so this file has future value, present value, retirement, car loans, and annuity due. But if you remember, with time value money, we always calculate certain things. So in this tab, we are mainly focusing on future value. So wherever there's FV, and then this one is PMT, which is payment. And then the other file, we calculate present value, which is PV. So all of these have the Excel function or the Excel formula, which I'll go through. And then, yeah, all of these tabs. So I've just inserted, but the one that you'll have, the one without the answers will be blank. But you will need to punch in these details and then calculate your formula in this way you see the yellow. So I'll just go through each of these so that we at least understand what's going on. So the first one is future value, and future value, if you click on this is the formula for future value, and actually it's showing us, so it's on Excel. If you just do FV, so I'm just gonna start this formula on this first one. So the number 1, 2, 3, and 4, you actually use the same formula. The only difference is just the numbers, but all of these have the same formula. So what you would need to do, you would need to start obviously when you're gonna start a formula, you need to press equals and then type FV on Excel. So once you start typing FV, you'll see this thing popping up. So this thing, you just need to double click on here. Then when you double click, it then shows us this formula thing that shows us what we need to select. So as you can see here, it says the first one is rate, the other one is NPER, the other one is PMT. So these are the ones that you must always have, unless you don't have PMT, which is payment. You would then have to select PV, which is present value, and then you don't need to select anything on type for this one. So on this file, you actually need to select the numbers. So these are the cells with the numbers, not selecting the words here. So you see the first one says rate. So if you check what is rate, rate is this one, which is interest annual rate. But then you don't select the word, you select this number, which is 5%. So what you'll do, you'll select that, which is then going to select that A5, which is the cell on column A on row 5, which has the interest rate. So wherever the interest rate is, the figure you would need to select. So it will depend whatever you're working on. Okay, and then after you select A5, so it shows you in this formula, the next thing that you must do is to put a comma, but it depends what laptop. So sometimes it will show a different thing, like a semicolon. So this is a semicolon, this one. But ours doesn't use a semicolon, it uses a comma. So you'll see once I do a comma, so you want to follow whatever Excel is telling us. Then I'll do a comma, and then now it starts to highlight the next thing. So even if I delete this comma, you see the bolded one is rate, means we can't move on to the next one unless we do a comma. So I'll do a comma, and then now it selects this one that says NPER. So we need to select the next thing, which is NPER. So on our thing, NPER is this 5, which is 5 years. Select the 5, then we say comma. Now it says we must select PMT. But on our information, we don't have PMT. This is lump sum PV. So if we don't have a PMT, we just need to select the number 0 or type the number 0 on your formula, and then you need to then press comma. As you see now, it has moved on to the next one, which says PV. It means we need to select PV, which is that amount. Then we select PV and we close our bracket. So you always just need to, so remember, you don't need to do type. You just need 3 of the details that are needed. So if you selected all 3, just need to close your bracket. Then after you press enter, that's your answer, which is also in the answer sheet. So basically, this is just showing us the formula and what you need. So it's more of interpreting what you need to select, because Excel is already giving us, it's already telling us you need to select rate, you need to select NPER, or we don't have a PV or PMT, that's why we have a 0, and then you need to select PV. And then close your bracket, then that's the answer. So all of these, number 1, 2, 3, and 4, they use the same formula. Basically, that's the same formula that you're using here. But remember the golden rule. So you should never have like a negative number like as your answer. So for example, this amount is already showing minus. So for example, if we didn't have a minus there, I'm just going to delete that. It was going to show as a negative, but you don't want to have a negative. If you don't have it there, you would then need to check which cell do I have the amount. So in our formula, the amount is in cell A3. So what we will just need to do, you need to go click on your formula in front of A3 with your mouse and just enter a minus there, not a 0, just a minus. And then that will also give you the same thing. So instead of it being there, because sometimes you won't have it there. If you don't, then you need to go press the minus in the formula. So, but in our scenario, so this is a minus. I'm just going to take this back. This is a minus 2000, which is giving us a positive. So all 4 of these, they use the same formula. However, when we go to number 5 and 6, this is something different, number 5 and 6. So here is something called compounding. So compounding means you're paying, so here it's only using annual rate. So we are paying annually. It's not asking us for any compounding. Compounding means you're not paying once a year, but you are looking at multiple times. So it just changes the frequency. But you'll always be given information. If there's, as you can see, this one doesn't have a frequency or it doesn't have anything different. But this one is the only one that shows like a number 2 here and compounding semi-annually, meaning your investment or the future value is gonna grow twice a year. For the others, it's just once a year because it's not in our information. So this formula, there's a difference. So if we just go back, so this one is also FV, by the way. So I'm just gonna delete this. So what I always suggest, always just start with the normal formula without thinking about the compounding, because this is FV. So we're also going to go equals FV. It says first we must select the rate. Just click once on the rate, comma. Then it says we must select NPER. Which one is NPER? It's that number, that thing. Then we don't have a PMT, we have a PV. So we're going to do a 0 here. Then we say comma, and then we select the PV, and then we close our bracket, enter. However, we are not done with our formula. Whenever there's a compounding, because you see, we haven't selected here. So the golden rule in compounding means the compounding will always affect 2 things. It will affect the NPER, which is number of years, and it will also affect the annual rate. So what I always say, go back to your formula. So if you click on this thing, if you come on this bar, you click here, you see I have like, you can type here. So my formula is there. So what you need to go and do, you see where you selected rate, it was this blue one. So it's the A17. What I just do, you must just go put your mouse behind the A17. As you can see, it's there. So with the interest rate, you always, because the interest rate is an annual interest rate, meaning it's a yearly interest rate. But now when you compound, you need to divide your interest rate by whatever number that you are given. If it's compound, so sometimes it can be 12. If it's monthly, it will be 12. If it's semi-annually, means twice a year, it will be 2. If it's quarterly, it will be 4. But what you need to do, you need to go there and say divide. Divide is this thing that's like a slash. So once I say divide on that formula, I then go and select the 2, meaning I'm saying my interest rate divided by 2. So that's what I've done. Then the next thing that you also need to, that would affect is the NPER, which is that purple one, which is on A16. You're going to also press your mouse after A16. And then also for year, we don't divide, we times, because the number of years, if you want to get, so this, because it's compounded twice a year, you want to then times the number of years by the compounding. But the interest rate, you are dividing. So this one, I'll say times, which is the star. And then I'm going to select also the 2 again. So remember, I started just with the normal formula here, and then I went back and said, selected after my rate, and I divided the rate by this compounding, which is number 2 or semi-annually. And then I times my NPER, which is A16, by this 2 as well. And then you just need to press enter. And then now that's our answer for compounding. So it's the same formula for this one as well. If you click on it, it's showing the same thing. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 use the same formula. And then 5 and 6 is different because it's compounding, where you have to, in your formula, divide the rate by the compound frequency and then times your NPER, or the number of periods, by the compound frequency as well. So yeah, basically, that's how you would then do the compounding. So all of these, and then here, so it's FV and FV. So another different one is number 7 and 8. So these are different because there, as you can see, we had PV, but now we are getting PMT. So if I just delete this, so I'm going to start this calculation, but 7 and 8 is the same formula because it's showing us the same kind of details that we need. So I'm also going to, so don't let FVA confuse you, still FV. So you'll go on Excel equals FV, then you select that, double click. It says we must select the rate. We select the rate, comma, it says the next we must select NPER. We select NPER. And then we say comma, then it says we must select PMT. Remember with these ones, we put a 0 in PMT because we didn't have on PMT. However, on this one, we do have a PMT. So now we will select the PMT, which is this, as you can see. Then you're going to close your bracket because you don't need anything else because you just need 3 of the things. We don't have a PV on here. You just need 3 things to complete your equation. And then you just close your bracket and press enter. Then that's your formula for that one. So the difference so this number 3 and number 7 look similar because there's no compounding. But the difference is on number 3, you have a PV, which is present value in your formula. And then on this one, number 7, you have a PMT on your formula. So that's the difference here. That's a PMT, then the other one is PV. And then, and then it changes over here. So as you can see here, it says we must calculate the payment. So it's asking us, what is the value of each annuity payment? So you need to calculate in this yellow block. What's the value of the annuity payment using the details that you were given? So if I'm going to start this one, I'm just going to delete this. So remember the other ones that we did were focusing on future value. And it even says in the question, calculate the future value. This one says, calculate the annuity payment, meaning we will be calculating PMT. So that's the difference here. Also in Excel, all you need to do is to type equals PMT. And once you select PMT, then the first thing that Excel says is select the rate. So you need to go select the rate, which is that cell that has the number, not the word. Then after that, so you can see on Excel for me, it says I must press a comma. Because sometimes on your Excel, it could say a semicolon, which is that, but my one says a comma. So rate and then comma. Then now it bolds, I must select NPER, which is this 10, then comma. Excel wants me to then select PV, but I don't have a PV here. So with the other ones, I had a PV, but this one says you must select a PV. But if you don't have that amount, that certain detail, you need to just type 0 and then comma. Then the next one is FV, which is what we have, future value. Then we select our future value. We close our bracket. We press enter. However, it's giving us a negative amount, and you don't want to have a negative amount. So on the other ones, because the amount was already negative, we didn't need to do anything in our formula. So now what we would need to do, you would need to go click in your formula and insert a minus where you have a value. So where do we have a value? This future value is this cell, which is A29, which is this one. What you want to do, you want to just go just before the A and insert a minus there. Then you press a enter. Then it gives you a positive. So always your answers should always be positive. Should never have a negative answer. Then number 9 and number 10 will always, I mean, in this scenario, have the same formula. So number 9, 10 have the same formula, 7 and 8, 5 and 6, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 all have the same formula. But yeah, basically that's how you do this tab. As if you go on your Blackboard, you'll be able to download this file that says answers. But I wanna encourage you to do the file without the answers or just delete the answers and then test yourself and try do the formulas and then try and mark yourself to see if did you get the correct answer. Because it doesn't help to just copy the answer. You need to practice how to do the formula. Okay, and then the next one is a sheet called F. So here we're doing present value. So it's similar to the one that we did previously, but the only difference is here we are doing the PV. So also here 1, 2, 3, and 4 uses the same formula. 5 and 6, same formula. 7, 8, same. 9 and 10, same formula. So I'll just do this one, which will represent 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So all you need to do, it says calculate PV equals PV. Select, double click. Says the first one is rate, which is that. So you see, Excel already tells us, guys, like you just need to identify, are you calculating the present value or are you calculating the future value, which is FE, or are you calculating a PMT, which is really the things that you would be tested on. Like it'll either be PMT, which is payment, or FV, which is future value, or PV, which is present value. So these are the things you would generally be tested on. Okay, PV, and then we selected rate, and then we say comma. And the next one says NPER. I select NPER, which is this 5. Then the next I press comma. So Excel says PMT, but in our scenario, I don't have a PMT. I have a FE. So if it says I must select a PMT, I'm just going to type 0. Just going to put 0 on my formula, then comma. Then now it says, you can see it's the highlighted one or the dark one. I must select FE, and then that's my FE. Then I close my bracket, enter. It's giving me a minus. So how do you then turn a minus into a positive? You need to go back to your formula where you have a value, which is this 1000 on A3. I'm going to go put a minus in front of the A. Just put a minus there. Enter. then it gives me a positive amount. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, same formula. Then we go back to compounding, which we spoke about earlier. So always with compounding, start with the normal formula before you bring in the compounding frequency. So here we are doing PV as well. So I'm going to start with a normal formula. Select rate, comma, NPER, comma, it says PMT. I don't have PMT, so 0, comma, FE. Close my bracket. It's giving us a negative, but also we're not done with our formula. Remember, when it gives us a negative, what do we need to do? Put a minus in front of the value, which is this A15. So I'm going to go put a minus there so that it just fixes that, but we're not done because we haven't selected this number 2. So whenever there's compounding, golden rule, it will always affect your rate and affect your NPER, which is the rate is on A17 and your NPER is on A16. So we're going to start with the rate because the annual interest rate is once a year, but it says compounding semi-annually, which is this 2. So the interest rate, you always divide. So I'm going to do the slash, which is divide. Then I'm going to go select the 2 after the interest. Then the next one, we need to go after NPER, which is this A16. The number of periods or the number of years we always need to times. We times by the compounding, which is this 2 as well. So star times this number 2, which is that, and then just need to press enter. Then that's your final answer. So that's the difference about compounding as well as just doing it without a compound. So you'll get this recording where you can go through it, but it's important that you also practice on your own without the answers, then check out your answers. Okay, then 7 and 8, also different calculations, but also asking for PV equals PV. So the difference here is that we have a PMT, we don't have a FV. The others we had a FV. So I'm going to select rate, comma, NPER, comma. Now we do have a PMT. We select that, PMT, close the bracket, enter. But however, our answer is negative. So how do we fix that? We need to go and check where do we have a value, A22. So we go to our formula, in front of A22, we put a minus. Then we get our answer that is positive. So 7 and 8 is the same formula. So you always need to look, what do we have in our detail? Because not all the time it will be PMT, sometimes it will be FE. But yeah, basically. 9 and 10 is now asking us to calculate what is the value of each loan payment. So 9 and 10 is the same as well. So here it's asking us to calculate the payment. So I'm going to go here, delete that. Payment is PMT. On Excel, you just need to say PMT as it says. Double click on that. It says first is the rate, comma is the NPER, comma, it says PV. And yeah, we do also have PV. Then we select on PV. You see our PV is already giving us a minus there. So you'll see now that we just close our bracket and enter, it's giving us as a positive because the number is already given as a minus. So it's not always, because on these ones you had to have a minus within your formula, but this one you don't need a minus in your formula because the amount is already given to you showing a minus. So basically, yeah, that's the present value sheet. So I'd encourage guys to please go through it as well. And then we have another sheet called retirement. So guys, these formulas are the same as the one that I've just spoken about. As you can see here, it's asking you to calculate annual payment, annual annuity payment. So your formula will be PMT. Also PMT. So here it says it's weekly. You are given a frequency of 52, which is still using the same compounding kind of thing. So wherever you have like a frequency, you'll always need to know that's a compound. You see, there's a frequency, it's 52, frequency also 52. However, here is the straight um, PMT formula. So the one that you have will be plain. You won't have these details, but you need to then go type in these details and then calculate it in this yellow spot. So in the file that you have the one with the answers, you have the one without the answers. So you just need to copy these, the 1 million on all of these and all these rates, then just calculate for yourself and see if you're going to get the right answers. So I'm not going to do this. So you guys just need to go and do this. You'll get the recording as well. Then also for the car home loans, I think we had a session where we did this in class, but basically this is also asking for payment, annual payment. So it's the same details. So you need to just copy these details, and then where there's a yellow, you need to calculate. You see, this is PMT because it's asking for payment. Also, this one, monthly payment. But the difference here, it has a frequency, which is 12. And then once it has a frequency, you have to do a compounding where you divide your interest rate by the compounding, which is 12. Then you times your NPER by the your frequency as well, which is 12, which is really what we did in the previous ones as well. So, and then you just need to copy these details, then calculate your answers in this yellow section. Then annuity U. So on here, it's asking us for future value, future value, future value, present value, present value, present value. As you can see on the formulas, that's what you need to do. Basically, yeah. And then also here on the file that you have, just copy these details and then calculate your answer in the yellow. And then after you practice that, then mark yourself. But it doesn't help if you're just going to copy the formula as is, then you just type it because you're going to think you know it, but you don't. Because in the test, you're going to be asked on the formulas. So on the test, we won't be really calculating using Excel, but you're going to get a scenario that is asking you, if I have this, what formula must I use? So you must know what is the formula to use. So it's very important to practice the formulas. But yeah, guys, basically, this is the file that I want to encourage that you go through. These are the answers, but you need to calculate. Then wherever you don't have the details, please just copy those details into the file and then calculate in the yellow. So next week, so I would also encourage, like, I mean, every time for us to actually calculate, practice. So it's similar if you did maths or anything where you practice, you then become good at it. But yeah, basically, that's the sheet.